Yeah, look, tell me what's the vibes, what's the mood? Yeah, I just hit up Mikey for the juice. Yeah, ain't no capping, I'ma tell the truth. I've been winning for so long, it's hard to lose. Yeah, deal, be my source, Christian like Dior. Yeah, I can't stop.
Hey folks, how's it going?
Yay.
This is, of course, the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel and podcast. I am the co-host, Jeff S., aka True Knowledge. That's us right there. That's my co-host right there, Cybernetic Shark, the veteran YouTuber with the impressive Halo background, denoting, of course, what we're covering tonight to start off the show, which is Halo Episode 3 from the Halo Paramount Plus series. We're here to break it down and review it. And with us once again to push on through this Halo series is Renee from, Loki's mom.
Yep.
From Sakara.freeforums.net, the podcast of champions. Nice to have you again, Renee.
I'm good to be here.
I did not send Lord Deathman his usual link, so I don't think so unless he has like special abilities or anything, I don't think he's going to be popping up. But you never know. So, we also, of course, have the Thor 4 trailer, the new trailer, and we'll eventually get into that, and we'll watch and react to it. I have not seen it at all yet. Cyber actually was the first one that told me about it today. Cyber, how old's that trailer? Did it just come out yesterday?
This came out Monday.
Okay. So, as far as Halo Episode 3 goes, we get this very interesting process with the beginning of the episode where essentially it's the creation of Cortana, and it involves the flash cloning of Halsey's brain, essentially, or herself, and we get this really interesting part of the process or whatever, the implementation of it and the creation of Cortana, where she's actually engaging her flash clone, and I found that very interesting. I really did. And that was the first time that we really were introduced to this whole concept of this flash cloning that they're doing, I guess, in the future of the Halo universe, where they're essentially, able to completely clone, a human being to some extent. And that is a part of the process of how they were able to actually develop Cortana based off the brainwaves, I guess, of Halsey. And so through that process, we end up getting the actual, first appearance of Cortana in digital form. And before we get into what, where that goes, there's a lot of, Renee, is that on your side, the background?
No. Oh,
okay.
What?
I don't know where that's coming from. So either way, Renee, before we get into, the actual implementation, or the actual initial birth of Cortana, what did you think of the whole process that they went through in terms of getting to that point?
Yeah. They took her and it was weird how she had that relationship with her own self, I guess, as it were, a little bit. And I don't guess that the clone was conscious for too long. And I'm hearing some background there. What?
Yeah.
It's like something's like some people are talking or something.
It's clear now.
Okay. Going back to it. Yeah, I guess the clone only lived for like a very short period of time, which she was just like totally when she woke up from whatever, she was just like totally alert and totally aware and everything. And so I thought that was really interesting. And she sort of had this very mild little smile on her face, like she knew everything. And yeah, and I guess on whatever when it looked like it may have been some sort of electronics already in her brain or something. I noticed when they were going through that operation with the needle and all that, and I guess was wiping the matrix of her brain into whatever it was so that she could insert it into John.
Yes.
Yeah, so I thought that was. I mean, it was kind of cold. I mean, there wasn't a lot of emotion to it. It was just flat out, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to just, and then she just destroys the clone, and and she's sort of forgotten about, or the, and then I think it was kind of creepy that her assistant, was kind of like wanting to. He was kind of like almost, narcophilia or something. He was wanting to kiss the clone body and didn't get to do it. But anyway, yeah. I mean, wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I mean, it was standard how it was set up and everything. Science fiction type show.
Well, yeah, the assistant was was like, very much like, all about how, like the clone was going to be transcending or whatever, and creating Cortana.
Yeah, and he was just like a real creepy vibe coming from him.
Well, and we'll get into the Flash clone stuff in a minute, but Cyber, what were your thoughts on that whole process?
I found it very interesting and unique. I like that they went a different approach to cloning versus what we've seen for cloning in many, many, films, TV shows over the years. I mean, like, I think the perfect example to kind of compare to is the film The Sixth Day that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in 2000. And basically how they did cloning in that was basically they were able to figure out how to do cloning. And, I mean, basically they could do it at a drop of a hat. And with how it's happening in Halo, I feel it's almost the exact same thing. Like, she discovered this flash cloning, it's right away it's able to do that. So, I mean, I think that's very similar. But overall, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was interesting how they took the approach to it. I also enjoyed just how, like, the whole kind of conversation went along with talking about, how this came about, and kind of like that's the direction they're kind of going in. So I think that was all very unique.
Yeah, I did too. And essentially, since I don't think that they're going to get into this at all in the series, I just want to relate really quick, from the actual Halo origin story, from the novels. And the premise of, like, that universe, which is, again, is a different universe than this Halo universe, or different story. The Flash clones, essentially were what Halsey replaced, all the children, John and all the other Spartans, when they abducted them as children from their families. They Flash cloned all of them, and they gave the Flash clone children as replacements to the families. And unfortunately, the Flash clones are not built to sustain, long life, so they don't last. And so, that didn't work out so well. But in terms of our story here, when we get Cortana, we get a very interesting, almost like, argument type, like a very argumentative nature with her and whatnot, like a very almost like, very independent, like very individualistic type attitude from Cortana, where she's like right from jump, almost arguing with Halsey about her duties and, like, the type of control or the type of, like, abilities she's gonna have with John. And so, Cyber, what did you think of that all being played out and the inception of Cortana herself?
I found it very interesting as well. Like overall I thought that how they played it out made quite a bit of sense, and at the same time, I think that it had a interesting flavor to it. Overall, I thought that like how basically the conversation, how it all came out, and stuff like that. It was acted very well, and I enjoyed it and how they all played it out. That I feel it led into it very smoothly too as well, and I thought if you're gonna come up with a TV version or a movie version of bringing how Cortana came about, I think that was a very clever way of doing it. And I also think that how they kind of have Cortana being a very CGI character still. I think that was very brilliant too. That they didn't have like it be like an actual clone itself, but actually more of a computer programs, kind of simulation basically of a Flash clone, which I think was clever too on their part because in the video game series, Cortana is this voice that you're always hearing. So I thought the whole thing played out very well. I thought that Ellen McPherson did a good job of bringing that whole scene to life, and at the same time, I think that it just was really well done, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Okay. Renee, what did you think of the actual implementation of or our first take of Cortana?
Yeah, you mentioned that the clone had an independence to her, an argumentative nature, and Halsey was fine with that. I think this is what she wants. She doesn't want Cortana to necessarily be, a replica of her own brain. Cortana has her own mind, her own personality, as it were. And yeah, and then when the clone, not the clone, but the avatar of Cortana, where is she? I asked this question, and maybe I missed it. Might have been on the show, but how is she appearing? Is she coming from a computer on the ship, or is she somehow emanating from the solution that's been put into John's brain? I mean,
initially, she is just a digital image, I believe.
Mm-hmm. But where's she coming from? What's the source?
She's. Mm-hmm. I believe that she's like loaded onto like a program, like a file.
All right, from the ship or from John? That's
at first from the ship.
Okay. All right, that's what I was trying to figure out, how she was actually appearing to John and to everybody, because she does. I guess when she appears, everybody can see her, or see that image. Yeah, so that was my question there.
Sure. So, what did you think of? Now, of course, they do end up implementing her, essentially into John, and that is kind of the next phase of like where the episode goes into, is the actual introduction of Cortana to John, and the explanation to John of what this new programming, I guess I forgot how Halsey exactly explained it, if she said programming or how she explained it, but this upgrading that she told him that she was going to do with him and whatnot, and we get the implementation of Cortana into John, into I guess his interface, and she becomes a part of him essentially, and I don't know if I can necessarily describe how she exists with him. They're doing it a little bit different on the show. In the games, she was a part of like his suit, I'm not sure if they're doing it like that on the show. I think that they're doing it differently. But my next set of questions would be, what did you think, Cyber, of, the initial implementation of Cortana into, John and his reaction to it?
I honestly thought it was a different approach to having Cortana be a part of John instead of how it is in the Halo series, where she's just a hologram he sees in his helmet, or hears in his helmet, basically. So I thought that was a different approach. I still don't know how I feel 100% about it. I don't know if I hate it or if I like it. It's more of like, I want to see how this plays out and see, like, does this make sense? And I think that John's reaction to it, I think, was like perfect, and I thought that he did a good job. Pablo did a good job of like expressing how, what a person like is being told this, and all of a sudden finding out, what the heck's going on? I'm being more, implemented and stuff like that. I'm being altered even more. After I've already come to kind of this conclusion in light now that I'm like basically brainwashed and all this kind of stuff. So I think that whole sequence was fun too as well, and I thought that John did a great job of showing what that would be like if you're finding that out.
Okay. What was your take, Renee, on that, the whole implementation and introduction of Cortana to John and his reaction?
Yeah, he didn't. He seemed to accept it just totally. He was, I guess he's gone through upgrades and whatnot and procedures before. So he just, took it in stride. Yeah. I didn't really get a lot as far as, how he was interacting with it with the clone just yet. I mean, he was just basically he just accepted Cortana as an individual and not as a program or something that's not really there. He seems to understand that she's real, even though she's electronically digitalized, produced, or however, like a hologram. I guess is what she's supposed to. What we're looking at is a hologram of her, of Cortana.
Sure. She's essentially an upgrade. She's an upgraded AI to him. Like that's what she essentially is. She's an AI. That's upgraded. He, of course, has no clue or any idea that she's actually based off of Halsey's own brainwaves, and that is actually a version of Halsey. Which is a really interesting part of the whole aspect, is that the fact that Cortana is essentially a younger version of Halsey. That's what she is. She is, she doesn't look physically exactly the same as Halsey, but she is essentially, based off the brain patterns and the brain waves and everything of Halsey. So that's a younger version of her. So I just found that whole dichotomy very interesting. Just the fact that, Halsey has that same type of like argumentative, very independent type of streak herself and type of attitude to begin with. So that's her disposition to begin with. So to see Cortana come right out of the jump that way, like almost like fighting over her role, with John, and like, being able to have full control or whatever, or full interface with John, I thought was really interesting. But as we move on into the episode, and we get past, Cortana arguing with Halsey, we then, we have we get like a short scene that I don't really want to get into. I don't think there's anything we're talking about on the rubble, of course, where our young friend from, Madrigal is now with John's, old buddy from the Spartans, that the one that took off in episode 2 and actually left the program. We then move into the scene where we end up with the UNSC ship coming in contact with an alien ship that has a human being in it and is sending in like a distress call, essentially. And now, at that point, all they end up saying is they're going to go ahead and send a pod over, right? They don't know what's going on. They said there's no weapons on the ship. They're going to send a pod over to help the human being. But, we see at the end of the scene that there are Covenant that on the ship. And so, taking into consideration that we've all seen farther into the show than episode 3, Renee, what did you first think of this whole deal with this human being? I forget her name. That essentially is a part of the Covenant. That, and this whole deal that, she's kind of like setting up the UNSC ship.
Yeah, she's coming. She's after the artifact herself.
Yeah.
The same thing that John's after. Yeah, and oh my gosh, I thought that was really well done. Those giant earthworms that just oozed out of everything and just was just wrapping and I guess crushing everybody, whatever they were doing. That was just really creepy and skin crawly. That's what.
Yeah,
just,
no, we might as well
Mhm.
just cross over into the whole. A couple scenes later, we end up getting the full takeover of the UNSC ship with those
Mhm.
aliens or whatever that was that she brought with them.
Mhm.
So no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and I guess that's pretty much. I don't think we see too much else of her. I think through the episode, I get she's taking over that ship and whatever she's headed. Making her plans to go retrieve the art. I think there's another piece that it was a little bit earlier when she's with the three dudes, and she said there's like another piece. I forget what she's called it, but it was like there's another piece that has to be matched into the keystone that they already have.
Yes.
So
that was a high charity. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I forget what those three aliens were exactly. You know what I mean? But I know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And honestly, to tell you the truth, Cyber, of course, without getting too much into the fact that, of course, this is like an alternate type of universe with Halo. This version, this human character is not a part of the original Halo story. So she's a new concept that they've introduced into this season of Halo, and it's interesting. It's an interesting spin. And so what did you think of that whole sequence? As far as this, her hailing the ship and then her taking over the ship completely in order to try to again find the artifact.
You're talking about Cortana, correct?
No, the human being that works for the Covenant.
Oh. Uh, so I mean, that whole sequence, we saw that actually in the trailer. Her taking over the ship and all that, like fighting and killing all the people on board and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed that scene. I thought that was really awesome. The aliens that were doing what they were doing for her, stuff like that. That character that's a part of the hierarchy, whatever you want to call it. She's been an interesting character since she first popped up in the series because she's kind of very mysterious, but at the same time, you kind of know what she is and where she is and what she thinks and stuff like that. But at the same time, that small mystery, which I feel she brought into this whole sequence we're talking about, you still don't know 100% what her 100% agenda is. And I thought they did a good job of kind of like showing kind of her doing what the hierarchy wants her to do, but at the same time, she has a hidden agenda, I feel. And that's my whole feeling I got through this whole sequence is that there's more than meets the eye to this one. And who knows where it's going to go, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. But that whole sequence, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a nice kind of like interlude and showing a little bit more about that character.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This episode started out with the cold opening where we see the I'm just going to call her the alien lady. After we figure out her name, we see her as a child on some sort of just horrible dystopian planet, and then whatever have they're torturing, and she's on the verge. They're getting ready to kill her, or whoever it is that's doing it to these people. And then the one of those lizard guys who's with the Covenant, saves her. I think he does. He says this was special. Whatever it is, he senses something about that child, and then he takes her to the high charity, I should say. And yeah, we see that. So yeah, so what Cyber's saying that she has a hidden agenda because she has that real ratty looking book that she had started reading when she was a little kid, and that's the only link she's ever had to her human past is that little magazine that she carries around with her. And I think at the end we not to leap forward too much, but at the end we see her there, clutching that magazine rolled up in her hand. So yeah, So a lot more is going on with her than just, she's wanting to retrieve the artifact for the Covenant. I think she's there for herself too.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really give us an introduction with her. Like, they never get into, how she actually got with the Covenant or anything like that, why she's even with the Covenant. We don't really get that. All we really get is that initial scene on High Charity where she's talking to the prophets. That's what they are. Those are the prophets.
Well, no, I'm talking about if you go all the way to the first where it starts.
Yes.
Before the credits, she's a child. There's two children on this planet.
Yes.
Okay, I'm referring. We do see that aspect of her, that she was someone who had a horror, but maybe she hated human because she was treated so horribly. She hated humans. She hated the people around her. And then when she was taken to, because she was a special child, they treated her like a princess, and just gave her everything. And so she loves the high charity. She loves these people as her own. Yet she still has that link with her humanity, which is, I think, the key to that is that magazine that she has in her hands.
Yes. And I believe that those not, are you referring to the flashbacks that John was having? Is that when you were talking about us seeing the child version of her?
No, it was the very, when it first starts, when the episode first starts, before it even gets to the credits.
Okay.
We see that it's about what, 3 or 4 minute scene or something that we see right there in the beginning.
Okay. So her and the Covenant and those worm things take over the ship. Like you guys said, she's looking for the second artifact. Well, she's looking for the first artifact, and the second artifact. They want to retrieve that first artifact that, of course, the UNSC already has. And we quickly kind of head from that direction to the actual artifact itself. And Halsey and Cortana and John essentially experimenting on the artifact themselves. And John, again, making physical contact with it, having flashbacks again, having memories again that he doesn't know what they're about. He's not sure what the hell's going on. And Cyber, what did you think of that whole deal? Like, the experimentation process they were having with the artifact.
Well, that's another thing that I think is kind of interesting about the series too, is that they're really getting into how the artifact works and kind of what it's all about, and kind of like try to figure out exactly all what it does. And I think it was interesting and a great idea that, in the writing of the series, that they decided to take it into effect and really absorb and use the artifact in the actual series, and have them experiment with it and all this kind of stuff and really examine it. Because in the games, if you think about it, they kind of go into detail about the artifact, but they really don't like show a lot of gameplay about it or having to deal with it and stuff like that. So I think this is kind of Paramount's kind of loose take on using that in another aspect to make it different and to expand on that from the video game series. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting that they decided to go that route to give us that view and that kind of that, like, how it works and what they can do with it. And I think in the long run, I think that will play out down the road. I think that when they're actually going to use it to save the world or something like that, probably is what will end up happening. Down the road, I feel that it'll come in handy again, and it'll show them, that to save the day or something like that. I think that's what it's going to be about. So I think it's a good idea, and I thought it was very enjoyable in the episode.
Okay, Renee, what were your thoughts on them experimenting on the artifact like they did in the series in the episode?
Yeah, where he first clutches,
yes.
He goes in there. After he's had his treatments and everything, he goes in and clutches the artifact. I think that's when he really starts getting a little bit more flashbacks to his own childhood. That's when he's the white dog, that the white German Shepherd, which I'm assuming was a pet, and then you see his home, and you might see that in another flashback, but you, he gets an idea of, okay, he knows he's a human, he knows he had parents and everything like that, but he doesn't know anything about it, so he gets a glimpse of what he's lost, and so he wants to know more about that. Gosh, maybe he wants to find his parents. Who knows what he is going through his mind at that point. I think when they Halsey and her assistant, then they start taking the artifact and sort of back engineering it as best they can to figure out, well, what's the piece that goes with this, and they come up with the much larger version that the Keystone fits into. And Cyber is talking about being something that's going to say. I sort of think Halsey, her ulterior motive is that if she gets control of this, then she will be able to, via her science, be able to interface with the artifacts for another upgrade. She may have ideas that she's going to take over some things down the road. We don't know. I don't think she's doing this strictly for science. She's got other ideas that while she is independent and everything, she's got other ideas that she wants to explore, and it could be for nefarious reasons down the road. So, but we'll see.
Yes, and of course, at the same time, too, I mean, she has already stated that that she sees the artifact as they don't know what that really is yet, or if it's a weapon or not, but they see it as potentially a key aspect of defeating the Covenant in the war. They just don't know how. And essentially coming off that, we end up actually having seeing Cortana try to introduce herself to Halo to John's team of Spartans, and John doesn't like that. And he's like, AI off and everything and whatnot, the Cortana and everything, because he doesn't like that whole deal. And Cortana's again like showing her independent streak, I guess. And essentially, we then get into Cortana helping John remove his emotional dampening, I guess you could call it, pellet that's inserted in his back. And upon having it removed, with John removing it with Cortana's help, we see John experience, I guess, for the first time in his life, seeing life and taking in other people and the sounds of other people and human beings and animals and everything and whatnot, without the dampening, the emotional, dampening, deal that he usually had. And before we get into his second, contact with the artifact, later on in the episode, Renee, what did you think of the whole deal with Cortana helping him actually remove the pellet?
Yeah, I thought that was, because the whole thing was that the UNSC officers were going on about was, well, no, we can't remove this pellet. We can't, that's how we control him. If he gets independent of us, and with his abilities, he could do some real damage to us if he wants to. So yeah, I thought that why would Halsey then let him do that, against the will of her superiors? And Cortana seems she's very encouraging of it. She helps him, tells him where to put the knife and everything. And and then when he like you said, when he starts actually tasting things again, tasting life, feeling things, colors, sounds, smells, and everything, just, and then he sees it's not exactly like his childhood dog, but he sees another white dog, and then that makes him, he feels something that could be like a desire of okay, now I'm really going to find out who I am now. and he's going to get down and get serious about it.
Okay, Cyber, what did you think of that whole deal? Right up until we get to the second engagement with the artifact.
Refresh my memory.
The part where Cortana helps him remove his emotional dampening pellet, and he then experiences life for the first time without it.
Aha, okay. That scene was freaking fantastic. I absolutely love that scene. I think that whole sequence was a really cool kind of concept, and just overall, just really fun. Seeing him remove the chip and seeing him kind of like give these expressions he's never given. And I thought, once again, Pablo. Once again, we mentioned this in the previous two, reviews of the first two episodes, how amazing an actor Pablo is, and he did an amazing job in that scene. Even the interactions with Cortana, and then even like expressing the expressions that he has for the first time, I think were done really flawlessly and really well done. I thought the whole scene there too was very good looking too. Like the scenery was really well done. Like everything about that whole scene, like it was very crystal clear, and it showed you all the different aspects. And I thought that it just was visually very appealing too, as well, along with that emotional, response from Pablo. So overall, I thought it was a really great sequence. I really enjoyed it, and I think that down the run as well, once again, I think that will play out in some part, with where John ends up going at the end of this first season.
Okay, and then we of course just moving right on, Cyber. I'll ask you. Now we go right into his second contact with the artifact, and he has the flashbacks again with his memories that he now recognizes as his own childhood. He's cognizant that is his childhood, that is his mom, that is his dad, and he believes that his father buried the second artifact. He somehow believes that second artifact is there, buried on whatever that planet was that they found him on, that they recruited him from. Halsey, what did you think of all that, Cyber?
I mean, overall, I thought that the ending, or like towards that section of the episode, I thought it kind of got a little slow, and I didn't care too much for it. I don't think it made it a bad episode. I don't think it made it it like really dampened it in a way. But I thought the whole section, it could have been a little more exciting. I feel like it could have had more to it. But I get the premise of what they were trying to go for. But I thought also that, Halsey, this is a very strong character. She's very engaging. She's very interesting. She's proven that she's really good at giving really great scenes. And I think just this was not her best scene. And I don't feel it fully explained everything very well. Once again, going into that mystery section of the episode, and just the mystery of, what is Halsey really up to? We know kind of briefly what she's up to, but I think there's more to her too. That means, yeah, that's a great thing about this series too, is I feel that there's so many characters that we are exploring, but each of them have some secret agenda that we'll find out about later. And I think that's a great way of writing and how they did that. And I think that plays out, at least in this scene, giving us that kind of, more, what's up with Halsey? Is there really an agenda, or there really isn't? And I think that's what kind of played out in that sequence.
Okay. What were your thoughts on that, Renee?
Well, I'm having a little senior moment here.
The second contact that John experiences with the artifact, now that he doesn't have the emotional dampening pellet.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I mean, when he sees that, and there's like, he gets more imagery. He can see his mother and father in his house, and he knows everything. He's recognizable to him, and yeah, I remember seeing all this. And then there's that scene where he's drawing, somehow that he's drawing that artifact and how it goes together and everything, and showing it to his mother. So somehow, as he was, probably the artifact, was in contact with him somehow. However that thing would work, because it's sort of a technology unknown to us. And yeah, and so yeah, he's going back to find that. So that's, I guess, when he says, well, I'm going to go to that planet. I forget what it was. It started with, I can't remember what it was, but it's not magical, but it's another planet nearby, I guess. So they're heading there, and of course Halsey's going to go with them. And I'm wondering if Halsey, how she feels about John. I mean, does she love him? Does she have any type of emotional attachment to him? I don't really, I mean, she behaves like she does. I mean, she's very kind and everything and caring towards him, but I'm wondering if that's real. And does she just see him as this fantastic machine she's built, and she doesn't see him as a human being? So I'm wondering how that's going to play out.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's an interesting, question to bring up. What Halsey's attitude is towards John. How does she view him? And again, we haven't they haven't given us much so far in terms of the interaction maybe of Halsey with John as a child. Yet they haven't really shown us that much. At least at this point, I don't think I think that later on in the next couple episodes, I think they do a little bit. Actually show us a little bit of Halsey talking to John as a child, because she has been a part of his life all the way through his life. Mm-hmm. She's essentially almost like a pseudo mother to him in a way, I believe, right? I mean, you guys tell me if that's, if that's not, that's how I imagine how John must view her to some extent.
Yeah, because Soren in the last week's episode, Soren, when he's he's dropped off Quan and he's going back, and he said, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" But yeah, run back to Mama, run back. So yeah, definitely, I think all the Spartans were trained to see Halsey, or whoever, maybe another person that trained them, as their, like you say, pseudo mother or pseudo parent.
Yes, I think you're right. Honestly, there's really not much that goes on, as far as I'm concerned, in the episode beyond that second, contact that John has with Cortana and the artifact. Besides him, viewing his memories and whatnot and everything, and obviously realizing that he needs to go back to his home planet, to retrieve the second artifact. We started a little bit late, folks. So, we're going to go ahead and switch gears before we lose Cyber, and go into the Thor 4 trailer real quick and whatnot, and go ahead and play it. I have not seen it yet. If I can actually get it to work, just give me 1 second.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man. He was a god. After saving planet Earth for the 500th time, Thor set off on a new journey. Well, he got in shape. He went from dad bod to god bod. And after all that, he reclaimed his title as the one and only Thor. Oh, spoke too soon.
Jane? The old ex-girlfriend.
What's it been like? 3, 4 years?
8 years, 7 months, and 6 days, give or take.
Am I, sensing feelings?
Well, you're right.
The only ones who gods care about is themselves.
So this is my vow.
All gods will die.
I just want to say that was very, very impressive what you did back there.
just my first bad guy.
You never forget your first.
You are not like the other gods of kill. You have something worth fighting for.
Let's see who you are. And take off your disguise. And flick.
Oh, you flipped too hard, damn it!
Should we help him? And eventually, great.
Hey, there you go, folks. We got some actual Thor nudity going on. That's always interesting. All right, let me get rid of the screen sharing. Okay, so, Renee, what do you think of the Thor 4 trailer?
So I'm still getting some weird sounds. I think Simon's got a party going on in his house. Okay, that's that's the first I'd seen it, and it really expanded upon the first one. I liked how it starts off with what's the rock guy's name, Gort or whatever his name. He's sort of narrating, and there was this great space Viking called Thor. I thought that was so great, and then that just oh my gosh, and Christian Bale, that looked really good. I like that. So this is really a step up from what the last trailer was.
Oh hell yeah! It was a game compared to the first trailer. It's a stark difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Cyber, you and I were really looking forward to them bouncing back and giving us something more to work with. You know what I mean? Of course, they had to show us gore finally, right? But what did you think of the trailer?
I absolutely love this trailer. I watched it 4 times as soon as it came out on Monday. It was so stinking hilarious. Christian Bale looks amazing as Gore. I really think he looks fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to the villain table in this. I'm also interested in just learning more about Gore himself. I know he's a newer character. He's only been around for a few decades now. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with, Thor and Jane and stuff like that, where they take them and kind of, because the last time we saw them together was, of course, in Dark World. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. If they stick with the actual storyline of how she becomes Lady Thor, basically, the cancer thing, it'll be interesting to see if they end up doing that. And overall, it looks really visually appealing. This is a lot better trailer than that teaser trailer. It was more enjoyable because they didn't have, Sweet Child of Mine playing so much throughout the whole trailer. And there was some even greater scenes in this trailer too as well. Especially he's like, Jane? That was absolutely hilarious. And then showing them in front of that house, and it's burning up and stuff while they're looking at each other. And then the whole Zeus thing, it was great to see more of Russell Crowe as Zeus, and that whole end sequence there where he flicks off his clothes was absolutely hilarious. So, I mean, this just looks like such a much better film than that first trailer presented, and so I'm so much more looking forward to it, so much more now.
Yeah, is it just me, or does what is his buddy's name there?
Korg.
Korg. Is it just me, or does Korg look bigger than like he has before in the past?
He's put on more rocks.
He looks the same to me.
Really? I don't know. Just for some reason, especially like in those scenes that they show in that winter wasteland or whatever type deal they have going on there, whatever that's about. And they show them walking with each other. He looks so much bigger than Thor. you know, like, to me anyway, you know. But I will say that it was very interesting to finally have an opportunity to see how they're presenting Gore, you know, in the film, how he looks. You know, this is our first time, obviously, you know, seeing, you know, how Christian Bale as Gore was going to play out. They, you know, they didn't give us a lot with Gore, but they did give us some stuff there and whatnot and everything, you know. And I would just want to, you know, as we kind of like round things out and whatnot, because this is going to be, I think, end up being a pretty quick show today, folks. This is going to be a cyber concise type show that I'm going to pull off. So, I know they didn't give us that much to work with, but Cyber, what are your thoughts on like Gore? What do you know, just based off the trailer, I guess, you know, what'd you think of what they gave us with Gore in terms of, you know, who he is, what he's about? You know, what was his impact you felt like in the trailer?
I thought his impact was pretty big. I mean, it didn't give you a lot, but I mean, it did show you that he's a very serious individual, that he means business, because some of his words there in the trailer, he's like, you know, I'm going to take out all the gods, I'm going to, you know, cleanse the earth, some kind of deal, that he means business, that he has a certain agenda, and that he's the god butcher. And so I think that just what they showed was just enough to get you very enticed to see what Christian Bale is going to bring to the table as Gore. And also at the same time, I think that the look looks really interesting. I don't know how close it is to the actual comic books. I haven't looked them up yet, but I have heard that it's pretty close, that it's pretty similar. And I like how they have it, if you noticed in the trailer, that whenever he's present, it's kind of a mute color around everybody. Mm-hmm. And like when they're in kind of like whatever zone he lives in, they go there, it becomes kind of black and white color. I think that's kind of interesting too, to kind of show what Gore represents, that he's a serious individual, that he means business, and that he's not here to play games. And I think that was truly presented in this trailer, and it was really enjoyable.
What were your thoughts on that, Renee?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, there's actually in the trailer, they, considering the length of it, they showed a good bit of Christian Bale's Gore, the God Butcher, and there's an interesting scene where he's whatever, he's takes out the gods and his whatever. But then when he gets to, I guess he's talking to Thor. He said, "Well, you're different. You know, you're a god, but you're different." And so there's something Gore sees in Thor that I think, you know, we'll have to find that out, I guess, in the movie. Yeah, so I really like that. And then going back to the nude scene, you know, we don't see a lot of nudity in Disney, but I like how when he did it, his butt just glowed.
Well, I mean, hey, you know, I mean,
you see people actually passing out.
Well, yeah, coming off
grandeur.
Coming off the She-Hulk trailer, I think that this is interesting that we're seeing this. We got the She-Hulk trailer and all the sexy stuff with that and everything and whatnot. Now we've got naked Thor. Mm-hmm. This is an interesting trend we're noticing here with Marvel Studios, where they're going with things. So either way,
little more adult direction.
Yeah, and of course, you know, and they'll explain this in the film. Gore's essential backstory is that he comes from a planet that was devastated, like with famine and whatnot and everything, and you know, and essentially, you know, he begged and prayed to the gods, you know, to save his family, and they never responded to his prayers. He lost his family, he lost his wife, he lost his children and whatnot and everything, and ended up essentially like the only member of his race or whatever, or like, you know, of his sect or whatever, you know, his alien race. And he swore death to all gods based off that. He actually, in the comics, he comes across two gods fighting, like in battle. And for the first time in his life, actually comes to the realization that the gods exist. They're there. Like, you know, this whole time he's been praying to them and whatnot and everything. He just assumed that there were no gods. So, and we'll see how they play this out, you know, in the film, but essentially at that point, that's when he swears that he's going to kill all gods, because upon realizing the gods existed, he felt like that they were to blame for the deaths of his family, essentially, you know, and his people. So I felt like it was nice to see Valkyrie finally kind of like, you know, show up in the trailer for the first, you know, we only saw her for like a second in the first one. So it's nice to see that she's actually like in the film and has a role. Cause I like her. I do. I think she's a good addition to like the Thor franchise. I do. You know, I don't know if either one of you want to address that or whatnot and everything, but I feel like, you know, she adds something interesting, you know, to like, to the, I guess the core group of like, you know, the franchise, you know? What do you think, Cyber?
She's a fun character. I really enjoyed her being added into Thor Ragnarok, and I thought she brought like a great new dynamic to the trio, to the group basically. And I mean, with the addition of the Guardians in this film, along with her, I think that's going to be a really fun all around just blast. And I think that she brings kind of another comical element to the film too as well, because if you remember in Thor Ragnarok, she had some good like kind of crack up one liners in the film. So I think that she will bring a little bit of a comedy element, along with her, you know, acting chops that she has. And you know, overall, I think Tessa Thompson is a really good actress. I think she does a good job. I think she's fun, and I think that her character of Valkyrie is really fun. So I'm glad to see her back in the trailer too, as well. Get a little bit more substantial kind of scene, and overall, I think she's going to provide a lot of fun to the film.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I absolutely agree. You know, Valkyrie is in some ways she could be sympathetic to Gore, because she was very cynical. She had been that battle that she had with Hela. If you go back to the third movie, what was it called? Ragnarok. She's very cynical. She hated Asgard. She didn't care a thing about, and she's been pulled back into her own culture, which is the Asgardian culture, and is the only surviving Valkyrie. I don't think there were any other survived that we know of. So yeah, she's bringing a different aspect, a more cynical, an outsider. She's not going through the trauma that the Asgardians, I'm sure they're going through, having lost their entire, whatever you call that sort of sliver of a planet they live on. And talking about Lady Thor, I think we get the idea that this is not. We sort of thought, well, maybe Jane's going to be an alternate universe Jane, but I think no, she is the Jane, from our Jane, 616.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that since she had contact with the ether, it had infected her in some way, and although they managed to get most of it, got it out of her, I'm in all likelihood that affected her somehow, and maybe that's how she's achieving her powers, her strength and everything.
Yeah,
and
well,
she's sort of becoming godlike herself.
Yeah, we're going to see how they decide to do that whole thing, in the film, because in the comics, of course, she gets cancer, and through becoming, getting cancer, she then becomes the Mighty Thor, and in the comics, every time that she becomes the Mighty Thor, it worsens her condition, her cancer condition. So that's the price she pays for becoming Mighty Thor. How they're going to play it out in the movie will be interesting to see if that's where they go. It could have something to do with ether. You're right, Renee. I agree. But unless you guys have any final thoughts on the trailer, I think I want to try to keep this under an hour. So I'm going to call it right there, basically, with the show. I'm pretty happy with I liked episode 3 of Halo. I feel like, again, having already gone ahead in the series and whatnot and seen some of the further episodes, I feel like there's a lot more to do and a lot more to talk about in the episodes that are coming up after episode 3. I think episode 2 and episode 3 were I don't know, maybe just a little skimpy in a way, kind of, in terms of really having stuff to flush out and really talk to in depthly about.
It was a lot of exposition in that. Not as much action. I mean, I think the biggest action scene was the worms. You know.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there really was no action at all other than that. You know, which again, which is okay. You know, like I have no complaints with that at all. I really don't. The first episode had full of action. You know, like ton of it. So, anyways, either way, before we head out, Renee, would you like to you know, do your plugs and everything and whatnot in terms of the Podcast of Champions and sakar.freeforums.net?
Yes, Podcast of Champions. I'm not sure. Taking a little hiatus. Remco has our Grandmaster. He has some plans underway, so he'll be coming back soon, hopefully. And yeah, over at sarkar.freeforums.net, if you want to come over there and just chatter and talk and express your ideas, or you know, say anything you want to, we you know, it's free speech over at sarkar.freeforums.net.
It is, and I enjoy. Although I don't participate that much on there. I do like to go on the forums once in a while and like inject my thoughts in there here and there, and I do actually do it. I'm an engaged member of the sakar.freeforums.net community. Maybe not as extensive as some. But hopefully, we're hoping that Cyber's actually going to get on there soon in the Podcast of Champions once they get their shows going, so he can probably get a chance. Cyber, sir, would you like to plug any of your personal content or anything and whatnot before we close things out?
Well, of course, if you enjoy seeing me here on the MCU's Bleeding Edge with Mr. Jeff Sabota, True Knowledge, you can check out my solo content under Cybernetic Shark on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Rizzle, anywhere you can think of. If there's content, I'm on there. Rumble even. And yeah, definitely check that out, people. If you like seeing what I provide here when I host, definitely check out my solo reviews and stuff like that, my impersonations and all that kind of good stuff. So definitely check that out, people.
Most definitely. And also, I just want to point out and say thank you to all of our supporters out there and everything and whatnot. I don't want to say fans. I feel weird even saying that. So our supporters out there and whatnot and everything, we of course have, you know, crossed the 1,000 subscriber threshold on YouTube and whatnot. We've surpassed it, like, not just surpassed it, but like blown it away. We're like on our way to like 2,000, you know, views and whatnot. And we of course, you know, that's kind of the next goal, right? Cyber, I would think, is 2,000. So, you know, at that point, we'd appreciate all of your support and whatnot. If you decide to check out the YouTube channel, do subscribe. You know, Cyber and I appreciate every individual one of you that support us and whatnot and everything, and subscribe to us and like our videos. And I've definitely noticed that honestly, our views have been up and whatnot and everything, you know, on some of our shows and whatnot here and there and everything and whatnot on our YouTube channel. We're seeing our numbers go up a little bit, and that's nice to see, you know, and so we're very thankful for that. We really appreciate it. Hopefully Cyber and I might be able to get together soon and go ahead and jam out a Thor 4 reaction video. Cyber, I'll try to get with you on that, brother. But in terms of, you know, myself goes, at this point, I don't even, you know, I'm all MCU's Bleeding Edge. So, I don't even really have individual content anymore. Everything I do is the MCU's Bleeding Edge. That's all there is. You know, I'm on a couple of like live streaming platforms and stuff and whatnot that I'm playing around with and whatnot and everything. But it's nothing really like, you know, intense or whatever. It's nothing, you know, a big deal or impactful or whatever. And even then, I'm on as the MCU's Bleeding Edge. So, I'm all in for the team. And so either way, you know, thank you to everybody out there and whatnot that support the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Shout out to sakar.freeforums.net. Shout out to Podcast of Champions. And all our good friends over there. And
I think Cyber's phasing in and out of it.
Oh yeah, you know, that's he does that sometimes. Yeah.
There he is.
You didn't know about Cyber's ability to he's been trained by one of the female POF live streamers and whatnot that are capable of invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
They actually Cyber's been being trained by one, you know, quasi like you know, like some Yoda Star Wars type shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She calls herself Alice.
Yep.
Oh, Alice. Oh, Alice. Okay.
She's from Wonderland.
Yeah.
I hear a little twinkle in the voice there.
Yep. So that's how
the name.
So that's how Cyber's been able to learn how to, phase in and out of his Halo screen in the background. You know, because those ladies over there on the POF live stream community are very talented.
Yeah, I like Cyber. I like your cap. Underneath the bill, what? There's some stuff going on, or is that puzzle pieces?
It's the comics. It's
the characters.
Yes.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, now I can see it better. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, I like your cap.
It is. It's a good cap. I like the I like what's on the bottom too. I know exactly what I've seen that that image. I've seen that hat online before. But I like the color scheme on top. I like the black Marvel lettering and whatnot off of that like lime, I guess, almost like or like green type color that you have on the base of the cap. I like how that looks. I really do.
It's black, actually.
Yeah,
Black. This is gray.
No, is this one of those gold dresses? Is the dress gold or white?
It's the coloring of the lighting.
He's playing mind games on us.
Well, hey, all I can say is I like the way that the Marvel looks on his cap better than mine. Mine's a little bit like old fashioned and
nothing wrong with old fashioned.
Yeah, well, you're more street. You're more street.
Oh, well, you know what?
Cyber's
yes,
disco. He's disco.
That's right. Yes, and real quick, I just want to shout out Gerald Glassford over at the Pop Culture Cosmos. I went over there yesterday and I did like a 45-minute long. He surprised me. He actually had me on for like a 45-minute long segment on the 10th anniversary of the Avengers, the initial Avengers film. And we had a lot of fun. It was a good conversation. We had a really good segment on his show, on the Pop Culture Cosmos and whatnot and everything, which of course I go there to represent the MCU's Bleeding Edge. I'll tell you, honestly, Cyber, that, and of course I'll talk to you about this on our own time, personally. But we should do something with the 10th anniversary of the Avengers. We really should, Like, I feel like it's a topic that there's a conversation to be had there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We will.
I feel like there's a lot to be said about, like, what, the impact of that first Avengers film and what it did for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What it did for the whole thing, all of it, It essentially, it essentially put them on the map. But again, I'll save that for the, when we hopefully jump into it on another show. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you on the next one.
Good night.
Yeah, look, tell me what's the vibes, what's the mood? Yeah, I just hit up Mikey for the juice. Yeah, ain't no capping, I'ma tell the truth. I've been winning for so long, it's hard to lose.